What's up, guys? I'm Chad Barnes, and welcome to the channel. Here, it's all about real car talk, from simple fixes to smart driving tips and keeping your ride in top shape. If that sounds good to you, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. Hit that subscribe button, and make sure you watch all the way through. There's a lot of good stuff coming. Let's get
Passing
to
on red at the intersection is not the only option of what is considered a passage at the prohibiting signal. Here are all the possible options: driving through a red traffic light, running a red yellow traffic light, running the red arrow. In the auxiliary section of the traffic light, driving through the forbidden signal of the traffic light, running a red traffic light. At a railroad crossing, driving under the red signal of a reversing traffic light on a traffic lane. The most obvious option for violating a traffic signal is running a red light. Paragraph 6.2 of the traffic rules clearly states that a red signal, including flashing, prohibits movement. Not everyone remembers, but running a red-yellow traffic signal is also prohibited. The same paragraph 6.2 indicates that the combination of red and yellow signals prohibits movement and informs about the upcoming turn on the green signal. Therefore, entering the intersection before the green light turns on is interpreted in exactly the same way as driving through a red light. Driving through a red light with an arrow in the main or additional section of the traffic light is also no different from driving through a regular red light. Paragraph 6.3 of the traffic rules explicitly says that traffic signals made in the form of arrows of red, yellow and green colors have the same meaning as round signals of the corresponding color, but their effect applies only to the directions indicated by the arrows. But in paragraph 6.3 there is one more important condition: a switched-off signal of an additional section or a switched-on light signal of red color of its contour means prohibition of movement in the direction regulated by this section. That is, if the arrow in the additional section is not lit, it is equivalent to the fact that in this section the red arrow prohibiting movement would be lit. So it's illegal to make a turn with the arrow off, even if the main traffic light is green. Signals of the regulator are established by paragraph 6.10 of the traffic rules. Well, drivers should remember that passing on the forbidden signal of the regulator is equivalent to passing on a red traffic light. Please note, passing on a yellow traffic light is also prohibited by paragraph 6.2 of the traffic rules, but it, unlike red, has an exception. Paragraph 6.14 states that drivers who, when the yellow signal turns on or the regulator raises his hand up, can not stop without resorting to emergency braking in places defined by paragraph 6.13 of the rules, are allowed to continue driving. Therefore, a fine for passing on a yellow light is usually not written out unless, of course, do not move from a place on a yellow in front of the inspector. All violations listed in the previous section are punishable under Article 12.12 of the Administrative Code. Part 1 of this article states that passing at the prohibiting signal of a traffic light or the prohibiting gesture of an adjuster and AMP, LT and AMP, GT shall entail the imposition of an administrative fine of 1,500 rubles. Repeated violation committed within a year provides for stiffer punishment under Part 3 of Article 12.12. It states that repeated commission of an administrative offence provided for by Part 1 of this article shall entail the imposition of an administrative fine in the amount of 7,500 rubles or deprivation of the right to drive vehicles for a period of 4 to 6 months. It should be borne in mind that the violation can be recorded not only by the inspector but also by the camera of automatic fixation of violations, but the fine from the camera will be only monetary. Clause 6.13 of the traffic rules specifies that when a traffic light or regulator signal is prohibiting, drivers must stop at the stop line where there is one. If you violate this requirement and stop behind the stop line, you can get a fine under Part 2 of Article 12.12. It states that failure to comply with the requirement of traffic rules to stop in front of the stop line, marked by road signs or roadway markings, at a prohibiting traffic signal or prohibiting gesture of the traffic controller shall entail the imposition of an administrative fine of 800 rubles. In the context of the stop line, it is worth remembering a few more nuances. First, a fine for crossing the stop line can write out not only the inspector, but also the camera of automatic fixation of violations installed at the intersection. Secondly, if you have already hit the stop line, then do not try to avoid a fine by backing up. This can only make things worse and Thirdly, it is necessary to remember about paragraph 13.7 of the traffic rules, which indicates that if at the intersection before the traffic lights located on the path of the driver, there are stop lines, signed 6.16, the driver must be guided by the signals of each traffic light. We are talking about intersections with separate carriageways. At such intersections there may be a separate traffic light and stop line before crossing the oncoming carriageway, so you can get a fine for running a red light, even if you enter the intersection. On green there is an exception in the traffic rules that allows a driver to drive through a red traffic light. Paragraph 6.15 states that road users must comply with the requirements of signals and orders of the traffic controller, even if they contradict the traffic signals, the requirements of road signs or markings. That is, the regulator has priority over the traffic light, and if he indicates that the driver can go under the red light, then it is necessary to comply with his instructions. Running a red light at a traffic light that is lit at a railroad crossing is penalized even more strictly than on a regular road. Such a violation is punishable under Article 12.10 of the Code of Administrative Offences. Part 1 of this article specifies that departure to the railroad crossing at the prohibiting signal of traffic lights or crossing duty officer shall entail an administrative fine of 5,000 rubles or deprivation of the right to drive vehicles for a period of 3 to 6 months. And Part 3 of the same article toughens the punishment for repeated violation, according to it, repeated commission of an administrative offence provided for in Part 1 of this article shall entail deprivation of the right to drive vehicles for a period of 1 year. Another variant of passing on red is the exit to the reversible traffic lane under the red traffic light signal above it. We have discussed the rules of reversible lanes in detail in a separate article, so here we will only remind you of the penalties for driving under the prohibited signal. There are two possible options here. If the reversible lane will be closed by traffic lights with a red X signal in both directions, then for driving on it, the driver can get away with a fine under the same Part 1 of Article 12.12, according to which passing at the prohibiting signal of a traffic light or at the prohibiting gesture of an adjuster and AMP, LT, and AMP, GT, shall entail the imposition of an administrative fine of 1,500 rubles. But if the lane will be open to oncoming traffic, it is not just about passing on red, but about driving on the oncoming lane, which is punishable under Article 12.15 of the Administrative Code. Part 4 of this article indicates that departure, in violation of the rules of the road on the lane intended for oncoming traffic, shall entail an administrative fine of 7,500 rubles or deprivation of the right to drive vehicles for a period of 4 to 6 months. Well, Part 5 of the same article toughens the penalty for repeated violation, repeated commission of an administrative offence, provided for in Part 4 of this article shall entail deprivation of the right to drive vehicles for a period of 1 year, and in the case of fixation of an administrative offence by means of automatic fixation of violations, imposition of an administrative fine of 7,500 rubles. Let's collect all variants of violation and punishment in the table. In conclusion, running a red traffic light can lead to serious consequences, including fines, points on your driving record, and even potential increases in insurance premiums. The specific penalties can vary depending on your location and whether it is a repeat offence. It's crucial to understand the laws in your area and prioritize safety on the road. Remember, obeying traffic signals not only keeps you safe but also protects others. Stay informed, drive responsibly, and always think twice before making a risky decision behind the wheel. Thank you for watching, and drive safely.